there, and welcome to this explainer. If you've been trying to make sense of the rapidly shifting, sometimes chaotic landscape of online knowledge lately, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're unpacking a brand new, super fascinating comparative study that just dropped in the peer-reviewed journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. A joint team of researchers from Trinity College Dublin and Technological University Dublin put together this massive, data-driven reality check on the world's most popular encyclopedias. We are literally looking at a direct, head-to-head clash between human curation and artificial intelligence.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this foundational difference sits at the very heart of the whole study. On one side of the ring, we've got Wikipedia. For decades, this has been our go-to source for public knowledge, right? It's built and continuously maintained by this sprawling network of human volunteer editors who debate, cite, and monitor every single page. And on the other side, we have the challenger, Grokipedia. This is a purely AI-generated encyclopedia, powered by xAI's Grok large language model. So it's human consensus taking on algorithmic generation. The researchers basically wanted to see exactly what happens when AI takes the wheel.
Section 1. The AI Encyclopedia Experiment. To really get the context here, we need to quickly rewind just a bit. When Grokipedia was officially launched last October by Elon Musk, it wasn't just, a simple tech demo. It had a very specific, heavily publicized goal in mind. The platform was launched with the stated mission to systematically fix what were allegedly to be left-leaning biases embedded within Wikipedia. Now, whether you personally agree with that premise or not, this was the central claim that justified Grokipedia's whole creation. The researchers at Trinity College and TU Dublin looked at this and saw a massive real-world experiment. They realized they didn't have to just guess if the AI was actually fixing bias or acting objectively, they could actually measure it. Which brings us to Section 2, putting Grokipedia to the test. To tackle a claim of this magnitude, the researchers deployed some heavy-hitting computational text analysis and advanced machine learning methods. I mean, they couldn't just look at a handful of articles and call it a day. Just look at the sheer scale of this dataset, 18,000. The team analyzed nearly 18,000 of the most highly edited English-language Wikipedia pages and paired them directly with their exact article counterparts on Grokipedia. And because these are the most heavily edited pages, they inherently represent some of the most high-profile, deeply contested topics in human history. So the crucial point is exactly what these researchers were looking for across those 18,000 paired articles. They established 3 main study parameters. First, they tracked writing style differences. Second, they analyzed the overall article structure. And third, and this is absolutely the most important one, given the claims surrounding Grokipedia, they tracked the political orientation of the external sources referenced in the text. Let's move on to Section 3, rewriting the rules. This is where the data starts to reveal how the AI actually manipulated the existing text. And it's pretty wild. The researchers discovered a profound, highly measurable split in how Grokipedia handled information. When comparing the thousands of articles, the data showed that only 34% of Grokipedia articles closely mirrored their Wikipedia counterparts. But a massive 66% majority were extensively rewritten by the AI. Grokipedia wasn't just, scraping data and formatting it identically. 2/3 of the time, the large language model was radically changing how the information was presented. Now, what's really interesting about this is the tangible difference in that 66% bucket. When the AI decided to extensively rewrite the text, it didn't just tweak a few words here and there. The rewritten articles became significantly longer and structurally way more complex. But check out that last point. They actually relied on fewer references. So the AI was generating way more text using much more complex phrasing, but backing it all up with less external citation. That is a seriously fascinating behavioral quirk of the model. That brings us to Section 4, the politics of sources. This was probably the most highly anticipated part of the whole study, especially given Grokipedia's initial promise to correct political bias. The researchers looked squarely at the political leaning of the external news sources that each platform cited, and the data delivered a pretty surprising macro-level baseline. As a whole, across all the articles they tested, Grokipedia showed a very similar political leaning to Wikipedia. On a broad, platform-wide scale, the AI actually continued to draw primarily on left-leaning news sources. So, at a quick glance, the foundational makeup of the citations didn't just radically flip overnight. But the researchers didn't stop at the macro level. They dug into specific categories. And well, that is where the story shifts. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where the AI selectively diverged. Check out the breakdown here. When the researchers isolated politically and culturally sensitive topics, specifically religion, history, literature, and art, they found a really stark pattern. In these highly contested categories, Grokipedia demonstrated a consistent shift toward referencing more right-leaning news sources compared to its Wikipedia counterpart. So the AI wasn't applying some blanket rule across the whole site. It was selectively altering the sourcing, specifically when dealing with sensitive human culture and history. Let's look at Section 5, the opacity of AI. So you might be wondering, why does this selective shifting matter so much? What does all this data actually mean for us, the people who rely on these platforms to just understand the world? Well, it all comes down to transparency. On Wikipedia, human bias absolutely exists, no doubt about it. But it's visible. If a human editor tries to skew an article on religion or history, other humans can see the edit log, they can contest the change, and they debate the sources right out there in public forums. Grokipedia, on the other hand, operates largely like a black box. The shifts in perspective and those selective changes in sourcing, they happen completely opaquely. There is no edit log of the AI's internal decision-making process. There's just no clear accountability or human editorial oversight. The lead author of the study, Sayeeda Mohammadi, summed this up perfectly. They stated, simply put, AI generation does not remove bias. It changes how and where bias enters the system, often making it less visible. This is the absolute core takeaway here. The data shows that the AI didn't neutrally solve the human problem of bias. It just relocated it behind an impenetrable algorithmic curtain where we literally can't watch it happen. Let's move to our next point and see how this builds on that idea. Professor Taha Yasseri, the study's principal investigator, highlights the real danger here. He points out that our findings suggest that AI-generated encyclopedias such as Grokipedia selectively reshape existing knowledge, which creates a patchwork system. Think about that phrase for a second, a patchwork system. Some content is just blindly copied directly from humans, while other content, specifically that sensitive cultural stuff we talked about, is entirely reinterpreted and rewritten by an untraceable algorithm. Because of all this, the researchers conclude with a pretty stark warning. They point out that we have already witnessed the catastrophic consequences of misinformation circulating without editorial oversight on social media platforms, things that have impacted elections, public health, the whole shebang. And now we are entering an era of large-scale black box regeneration of information by large language models. They are urgently calling for transparency, oversight, and regulation here. Because remember, encyclopedias don't just reflect public knowledge, they're literally the data used to train the next generation of AI systems. It's a compounding effect. Which leaves us with this crucial question to consider. As AI opaquely reshapes our information landscape, how will future generations govern and verify the truth when the editorial process is entirely invisible? It's a massive, massive challenge for our digital future. Anyway, I hope this explainer really helps clarify the hard data behind all the headlines. Stay curious, keep critically analyzing your sources, and I'll catch you in the next one.